All right. So I had no intentions of, I think, ever creating going live. Um, but I think I've been doing this for a while and I've started to realize that there are a lot of people who feel just like I do. Um, and I thought, why not create a place where we can have conversations and kind of just have a safe space to just sit and process and maybe vent. Um, because I think there's, some people are more comfortable keeping things in than sharing them, even with people that they love. Um, but I think there's comfort in knowing that there's other people who are going through the same thing that you're going through, um, who kind of can relate to that. So, excuse me. So I just wanted to create a space for that today. If nobody shows up, that's okay. Because I think a part of this is also for me, because I've been struggling with things recently. Trying to be obedient, trying to do what God's asking me to do, but not truly being prepared for taking that next step. Um, obviously, I'm not a professional. I don't have great lighting. I don't have the best setup, um, but I'm going to be obedient and do my best. And I think that's what God's asking me to do. Is Josh, um, don't be afraid to share your story or um, things that help you or what's on your mind. Because if somebody's watching this and they see a stranger willing to open up and be truthful and be honest, I think I think that it can go a long way. So I think for me specifically, I wanted to talk about that tension between being obedient and being comfortable. Um, there's a season that I'm walking through right now where I truly feel like God is asking me to move on from one thing and move on to another. And it's hard because I truly enjoy this other thing, this other place, these other people. And, it's kind of like what's going to happen if I do take a step out. And, we're always concerned about, well, if I do this, then what's going to happen? And I think that's really with me that the tension that I'm feeling is I still want control. I still want to, I guess, know where the cards are going to fall. Um, and that's something that I'm going to continually work through, I guess, throughout, the, the rest of my life, because I've been a control freak for so long that I wouldn't take leaps of faith, or I wouldn't even take a step out of my comfort zone because I was so worried about all these different possibilities of things that may happen to me. And, 9 times out of 10, nothing ever did happen to me, but I was still, traumatized from my past and trying to put up all these barriers and using that as an excuse to not, you know, do something new or follow where my heart was leading because of the unknown. And, through reading scripture, we see in Hebrews 11 where it talks about God asking Abraham to move, to go. And and he did. He didn't know where he was going, but he moved. And I would love to have faith like that. I think all of us would. Um, but I do wrestle with the fact that I am human and um, I'm not to where Abraham is, but I want to get there. And I think the first step is actually taking a step away from comfort. So when I look at the things that I'm gonna leave, I look at all the things that make me comfortable, the people who know me, the schedules, um, the activities or the events or whatever it is. I look at those things and it's normal to me because it's been routine. And I'm going to go to something that's unexpected, even though my heart is pulling me in that direction. And I think that my heart is going to align with what God wants in my life. I can see that, but there's a part of me that's still saying, but what if, you know? Um, so that's kind of where I'm wrestling with that now. Is I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to do what God's asking me to do, but it's still scary. I think about Peter taking a step out of the boat when he says to Jesus as he sees him walking on the water, tell me to come to you. And Jesus said, okay, come on, man. Maybe not in those words, but that's what he said. And Peter took a step out. And for a minute it worked. And then life got loud again. The wind got loud and he started to sink. But he took a step. I think that's important to look at and to recognize that he did. He took a step. He took a step of faith. And I'm over here contemplating taking a step when I know that life is going to get loud and it's not going to be easy. But I need to take that step. And I think there's a lot of us that feel like that, where, we're in a situation where, maybe it's not, you're leaving one good thing and going to another good thing. Maybe it's God's wanting you to go somewhere else because he knows where you're at is not the best place for you. And you can see it and you can feel it in your heart, but there's still something inside of you that says, well, I know this. Even though this isn't the best situation, I know it and I understand it. Because not understanding, that causes tension. Saying, well, it may not be the best here, but at least I have A, B, and C. If I go over here, what if I don't have those things anymore? And I feel you. I know exactly what you mean. So, if anything, this, like I said, I created this. I went live, just to create a space to talk like I just talked. Maybe there's something going on in somebody else's life where they're just like, I don't know where else to say this. Say it here. Are you confused about something? Are you feeling lost? Are you feeling down? Are you don't know where your next step's going to take you? That's why I wanted to do this. I wanted to create a space to where we can just vent and kind of talk about these things. And obviously nobody's joined this one, which is fine. That is perfectly fine. If anything, I would like to continue doing these because I want to create a place where conversations can happen, where people can just sit and contemplate and maybe we can share ideas with one another to where, this works for me. When I'm faced with these challenges, I tried this, or, I never thought about it that way. So I think that's been a big thing for me is redirecting my focus. And, maybe one of these days, and like I said in one of my other videos, that, I'd love to share my testimony to share where I once was to where I am now, because I was a completely different person. There's millions of stories like that out there, but I think it's important to share those because everybody's different, everybody's unique. But at the same time, we all share the same experiences. We all share anxiety. We all share depression. We all question our faith. We all question whether or not we belong or whether or not we're seen. And we've all wrestled with those things. None of us are perfect. And I think it's finding a place where you can realize, like, I'm not going to be judged there. I'm not going to be taught and spoken to or talked down to there. That's the whole idea behind this. Um, if anything, it's therapy for me. It's um, because I don't know everything. I don't have everything figured out. And again, I had no guardrails for what I was going to do today, really, just for, maybe some short preparation where I was like, I feel like God's calling me to just open up the floor, seeing how my previous shorts and my previous videos, just looking at the comments and the reactions, and, there's a lot of people out there who are going through the same thing that I'm going through. So I don't want to just be a talking head or a short video creator that offers, my thoughts on things, even though that's the premise of this channel. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's, these are my thoughts. What do you think? Because I'm not preaching to you. It's something that me and my friend Aaron say, we're in a band together. We always say that we're preaching to anyone but the choir, right? Because we're right there with you. We're trying to figure this stuff out together. We're trying to walk through life together. So that was the purpose behind this. I'm going to hang around for a little bit longer to see if anybody else pops on. But I think the biggest thing for me was just to talk about that tension between being obedient, like I'm doing right now. I felt like God was saying, dude, well, that's how I viewed it. God was like, dude, I need you to do this. I need you to do this, because there are people out there who don't want to say the things that you are saying all the time, but they feel it. And I see them, and I want them to know that I see them. So if I can be that voice, that bridge, why wouldn't I want to do that? For the longest time, I only did things that I wanted to do, that I felt comfortable in. Because I don't feel comfortable doing this right now. Not to say that I can't grow into being comfortable doing this. It's just, this is outside of my norm. I started this channel doing videos just like this, talking head, telling you my thoughts. And then it kind of moved on to, I want to put my thoughts to a visual, because I'm I got a face for radio, right? I'm just giving myself a hard time, but I think that the message matters more than the performance. That's why I always say, presence over performance. So I just wanted to get my thoughts out there and not have anything that's distracting. So we'll see what this grows into. We'll see what this turns into. I hope that it is turned into a place to where we can have open conversations and reflections, and just talk about how our weeks went and how our days went and what's on our mind and what's heavy on our hearts. So give it a couple more minutes. It's 3:50. So if any of you out there have kids like I do, my wife's going to pick them up right now. So this was an ideal time for me to do this. It's probably not an ideal time for viewership, but that's okay. That's okay. If somebody's finding this later, thank you for showing up, and I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see where we can go with this. So I'll just sit back. I guess I could tell you, if you made it this far, I guess I can tell you about the project that Aaron and I are working on, Dragons and Astronauts. It's another part of my story. If you stick around long enough, you'll realize that I've made music a good portion of my life, and I've always made it for the wrong reasons. But now Aaron and I are making music that kind of do the same thing that we're doing right now, to just share the things that we've learned on our walk through faith and heartbreak and loss, all those things. So not only do I do this thoughts with Josh, um, and make shorts, and I make music. I am in a ministry preparation course to get ordained, hopefully in the near future. Do have my district license, so I'm a pastor here in Central Ohio. Um, so there's a lot of things that I'm working on. I want to be there for as many people as I can, and I think that this is another outlet that the Lord's saying, look, there are distractions everywhere, and I want you to be a person that is there for people in the middle of a world that's full of white noise. So here I am. All right, so I think we're going to wrap this up. Everybody have a great day. Have a blessed day. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at, I think it's on the homepage, thoughtswithjoshyt@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, concerns, you just want to share something with me, you just want to vent, you're not alone. I'm here with you. All right. Thank you.